Welcome to another episode of the Balancing Hormones Naturally podcast, where we offer actions and steps you can take today to start balancing your hormones naturally. This is your podcast host, Leah Brueggemann. I am a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner. I am honored and excited to be your guide on your journey to better understanding your hormonal health and how it affects your everyday life. Hey ladies, so we are back again for another episode. I actually have a guest for you. So this is Rachelle Robinett. She is a registered clinical herbalist and a holistic health practitioner and founder of Pharmakon Supernatural, which is a plant-based real-world wellness initiative. So I'm going to interrupt my intro really quick. I get asked all the time about herbs, and I'm not an herbalist, so we got one on here to chat with you. Rachelle combines her knowledge of herbal and traditional medicine, plant-based nutrition, and a habit remodeling into holistic solutions for busy individuals seeking best being in their bodies and minds. So I'd love to just kind of start with you giving us a little intro as to what got you into being an herbalist, because that's a specialty.
It is a specialty. It's a specialty, and it's also very holistic. And the fact that it's holistic is actually how I sort of quote unquote got into it. So I have been around nature and health and wellness and sort of the functional aspects of anything that we consume since I was a kid. I grew up in a home that was, well, in two homes. My parents were not together. And I grew up around ideas of eating food that you grew in your garden and using supplements and being outside and having a relationship with your body that is very much about understanding that, you know, there are symptoms, and those symptoms are your body's way of communicating to you, you know, about something, and to kind of inquire within. And so long story short, you know, I personally was always interested in, you know, health and wellness, basically natural health and natural wellness. And when I began practicing it professionally, it was because so many people asked, you know, what is it that you're eating? What is it that you're doing with your life? What is it that you know? Can you teach me? And I was like, how do I describe what I do? It's like, am I a health coach? Like, that doesn't really resonate with me. Am I a holistic health practitioner? Like, yes, but that's kind of a mouthful. And so it was years into my practice that I kind of realized, oh, everything I do is plant-based, and herbalism is not just about herbs. Herbalism is holistic. It's about all these things. It's about food, and it's about the environment, and it's about sleep, and it's about lifestyle, and it's about herbs, and it's about supplements. I was like, oh, well, I'm an herbalist. And that's the easiest, you know, that's one word. Everybody kind of gets it, but doesn't totally know what that means. So that's how I came to, you know, be sort of titled herbalist. I also, you know, have all the education that gives me my credentials. But it's because it's holistic that I actually, you know, use that title.
That makes sense. Did you have any like issues that kind of started driving you into looking to herbs, like, or did you just always kind of just liked them?
I don't really proclaim a healing journey. I mean, I think I've had plenty of my healing journeys, but I don't really tell it as part of my story necessarily. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, but I don't think there's any one thing that I say, this is what, you know, made me interested in this world. I was interested in the world first, I would say, and then I used it to help support things like anxiety or migraines or addiction. You know, there's a ton of addiction in my family, and I have a personal relationship with that as well. I've had injuries, like, you know, all the things, but I just feel like we're all on healing journeys. So there was no one thing that pushed me into it. And I was definitely, the thing that pushed me into it was, again, as a very young person, I was trying to understand much more from a spiritual standpoint. What is truth? What is God? What is consciousness? What is this reality that we exist in? What is it like to be a human being? And that answer seems to be for me, it seems to be in the natural world and in the way that we interact with our environments. We are our own environments, and then we're interacting constantly with, our external environments. And that's what drove me into this primarily. But I definitely use herbs for anxiety. So there's that too.
Yeah, I do have to say, I feel like even if you know nothing about herbs, you've probably heard of people talk about like ashwagandha and something like that. It's a big stress one.
Totally.
Um, so I want to kind of just talk about overall hormone wellness with herbs, maybe how people could start incorporating it into their life, and then dive a little bit more actually into fertility.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say you have Susie who has funky periods, irregular cycles, and she's like, okay, herbs are cool. Like, what would be like something she could start doing? Would it be an herb, or would it be like something else that you would recommend starting with?
Yeah, that's a good question because, as I'm sure you've talked about so much already, hormone balance is so holistic. And like we just
Yeah.
mentioned, my approach is so holistic. So I would definitely say, hi, Susie, tell me about your whole life. Tell me what you eat and drink. And if you have movement during the day, if you get light, how's your sleep? How are your stress levels? All that stuff. And if Susie's like, all that stuff is dialed, it's in such a good place, and
Yeah.
I still have these symptoms, then we would go to herbs. If Susie's like, no, these things are all off balance, then we would work on all those things first. But to skip to the herbs, so we'll just assume, all those things are in a great place, or maybe, somebody needs help with sleep because
Yeah.
that's disrupting their hormone balance, because they're not getting enough sleep, then we could consider herbs for sleep. So, where we work and how that affects hormone balance just totally depends on the individual. I would say that I tend to use a lot of the combination of Vitex, um, liver support, and
Mhm.
black cohosh. So it's easier to say Vitex and black cohosh together plus liver support. So you get this like hormone balancing combination that's working primarily on progesterone. And of course, the relationship between progesterone and estrogen, because they're all interwoven. But that, for somebody who just has, severe PMS symptoms, combined with extra liver support to help filter those hormones out of the blood, plus the lifestyle adjustments, I see that work over and over and over again to make people feel great.
Yeah. Herbs can be cool. What
Mm-hmm.
about, so I also know herbs can be tricky though. Like, if are herbs something that people can just start using? Like, talk to me about, like, do you need to watch for sourcing, dosage, side effects, just so as people start listening to this, they're like, oh, I want to try that. Like, what should they be looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm definitely in favor of people being less afraid of herbs than cautious. It's especially with everything that's on the market and how regulated it is. If you're buying herbal supplements from, brands that are available in the common marketplace, then it's harder than not to screw it up, and it's very uncommon to find. Like a dangerous herb interaction, or something like that. Now, um, everybody is a unique individual, of course, and somebody who might have an allergy to gluten could also have a sensitivity to ashwagandha or something like that. So you always want to start small and just make sure that it works with your body. But it's very much like trying a new vegetable. These are
Okay.
like functional plant-based remedies. And again, most of what's in the marketplace is right at the kind of dose that you need or under the dose that you need.
Okay.
Usually you need more than, you see out there. So, I would encourage people to experiment, but, they're like vitamins and supplements. So if you don't need more magnesium, like don't use magnesium, and so it's like, if you don't need more progesterone or your progesterone is high, then don't use the herb that's going to increase progesterone. So it's not a matter of just kind of going out and choosing some herbs and like trying them out. You want to make sure that first you understand what your body needs, and then go out and find the herb. The herbal blend is a better idea than a single herb, the herbal blend that works in your favor there. And if you don't know, that's what I'm doing out here, is educating people, about how to understand that. Other herbalists will do the same, or, a lot of good, just like health food store, supplement foods, stores, or even people at farmers markets can give you a little lead and recommend something that can work for you. Food medicine, kitchen medicine, things like garlic and ginger and all that are also super functional. So we don't even have to like go to a supplement store. We could just go to the grocery store a lot of times. One other note to answer your question about like sourcing and that sort of thing. Usually what I recommend for people is, if you're shopping for herbs, then apply the same criteria to those decisions that you would apply to your food choices. So if you're somebody who's like, I want it all to be organic, then find organic products. If you're like, I don't want to deal with that, I don't have access to that, I'm not interested in that, I care about if it's local, or I care if it is women owned, or I care about none of that. I just want it in my life and I need to be as cheap as possible. Like whatever your criteria is for food, then you can apply that to herbs as well. And I think that's a good way to say, like, what should I be looking out for? Because it's a spectrum of quality out there. Yeah.
That makes sense. Do you have like a favorite like modality? Is that the word for getting it in? Like, do you like teas, tinctures, pills?
Yeah, that's a great question. The best, I usually say format, but modality totally works too. The best format is the one that you're going to use consistently, most of all. So if you're like, I never drink tea, don't get a tea, get what you're going to use. Some herbs are better in some ways, but mostly you want to choose the format that's going to work for you. And a lot of times that's driven by taste. So like ashwagandha doesn't taste great. So it's really common to find it in a powder form. But then the next most common thing that you get is someone saying, it tastes gross. How am I supposed to use this? So tinctures and capsules are a really easy way to take something that doesn't taste good. And it's also very concentrated. But then you have plants like lavender and lemon balm and chamomile and sage. And like, those are amazing as teas. And they also work, like as soon as you're smelling lavender, it's working. So why not make a tea with it instead of popping a capsule? So
Yeah.
that's what I recommend there. Speaking of which, I need to take a drink of water.
Just a quick break to remind you that if you are not already seed cycling with us, you should be seed cycling with us. The benefits of seed cycling are amazing. They contain so many nutrients that are necessary for hormonal imbalance, including zinc, manganese, vitamin E, all of the good things, amazing for egg quality. And while seed cycling is not the end picture, like that's not all that you'll have to do to maybe achieve the things that you're looking for in your health, you guys, it is the easiest thing that you can do. So 1 tablespoon of pumpkin and 1 tablespoon of flax seeds from your period to ovulation, and then switch to sesame and sunflower. So that is 1 tablespoon of each of those seeds every single day. You want to be buying whole organic, and then grind them before you eat them. The reason why you don't want to buy ground is that they go rancid within a couple weeks. So unless you know where your seeds are coming from, how long they were sitting on the shelf, they're probably rancid by the time you get them, okay? So start seed cycling with us. And as always, if you want to make this even simpler for yourself, that is where Funk It Wellness seeds can literally change your life. They are organic, they are certified B Corp, all of their seeds are they get them from the best places, and you can get them shipped to your door. So it literally doesn't get any simpler than that. And it's a subscription. So literally, Happy Hormone subscription box. I can sign up for that. Yes, please. So you can get yours shipped to your door. Right now, they're only in the US. So if you are outside of the US, I apologize. But if you are inside of the US, take advantage of the flash sale that they have going on. You can use code LEAH, LEAH 20 to save 20% off of your order. And you even save already on your subscription. So I love seed cycling, but I will say that sometimes it can get hard to stick to because it's hard to find quality seeds, and sometimes I forget to grind them and then I don't get my seeds in for the day. So Funk It Wellness makes it super simple. Literally, they're shipped right to my door. They grind them right before they ship them, so I know that they're not rancid. They have certified B Corp companies that they get their seeds from, so they're super high quality. They're organic. So yeah, I'm much more consistent with my seed cycling now, thanks to Funk It Wellness. The ashwagandha does taste really nasty. I have to concur there. So if you're looking at tinctures, I've always wondered this, typically they always have alcohol in them and some don't. Does alcohol help pull out properties of the herb or no?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what it does. Yeah. So you're right. Most tinctures are alcohol based because certain plant compounds are going to be water soluble or alcohol soluble. And hopefully, if somebody's making a tincture, they know that the compounds in that plant that they're after are alcohol soluble. So they do it in a tincture form. And if somebody knows that the compounds are not alcohol soluble, then they don't make it into a tincture. Now, you also find tinctures called glycerites, which are vegetable glycerin based. And those are for kids or people who are totally alcohol free and they want that same format, that liquid format without the alcohol. So you can also find it that way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to just pick one, can you pick a favorite? Is that possible?
I can. I definitely have some that I use a lot myself personally. I would say in general, it's funny. I usually say nettle leaf, but maybe for today, I'm going to say kava.
Okay, haven't heard of that one. You'll have to tell me what that does.
And kava is very much like an herbal alternative to alcohol. It is very relaxing for the physical body. It works on the GABA system in the brain. So it's helping to calm us. It's helping to make us feel more social. Traditionally, it's used in a lot of settings similarly to alcohol. So people would sit around and kind of imbibe it together and discuss and socialize and negotiate and do all these different things. Great for anxiety, great for panic attacks. So it's one of the earliest herbs that I learned about for anxiety when I was a kid. And now I use it happy hour, or if I'm traveling. I love it when I'm traveling. It also can be really good for headaches. If you get tension headaches, which I get up in my kind of neck and head, because it's relaxing those muscles around your neck and your head and your shoulders. And it's really easy to just have a little bit, feel the effects right away. So today I'll say kava. He can
Is
be
that
my
with
buddy.
a V, CAVA?
It's KAVA, actually. Yeah. Kava with a C is the champagne equivalent, the sparkling. Yeah.
I've never heard of this herb, and it does so many things.
There are so
crazy.
many herbs. So many. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I need to know more ones that I've never heard about that do things like this.
How long do you
So,
have?
um, let's go to your second favorite before we keep going.
My second favorite. Okay, so let's see. So maybe I'll go back to nettle because a lot of
I
my
like that one.
yeah, a lot of my second favorites are in the same vein as kava. They're like happy hour herbs.
Okay.
I tend to use a lot of those. Or well, maybe we'll give you one that you might not know. Mucuna pruriens. Do you know that
Never
one?
heard of that. Nope.
So mucuna is a legume,
Okay.
and it is known also as dopamine bean. So it is high in L-dopa, which is a precursor to dopamine, and so it's supporting the dopamine system. And I love that one for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have you spell that one out. And I'll put it in the show notes for everyone because I'm over here like thinking about Dutch tests I've run where
Oh yeah.
the dopamine, the neurotransmitters are off, and I'm like, oh, that'd be such a good little food they could add to their life.
I just finished my first ever Dutch test like last week. I don't even
It's
have the results yet. I'm so
You
excited.
will love it. You
I'm
will love it.
sure.
I
I'm
love the Dutch
sure.
test. Dang. Okay. I guess we could spend here all day. And I'd like to, but we can't. So, can we move into a little bit of fertility? So,
Mhm.
um, let's picture someone who's like nutrition is dialed in. And the reason why I say this is like if you're listening and you are like, oh, I need herbs for fertility, you guys, you need to have the other puzzle pieces. So like your sleep, your stress, your nutrition, all of that fun stuff. But let's say they're dialed in, and they just want herbs or something to help boost both. And let's say, because it takes two to tango, like
Mhm.
male and female, what would be your go-tos?
Mhm. Yeah, for all partners, I would say probably maca is my first thought.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, it's so holistic, right? Like you're getting support with libido as well as the endocrine system balance, as well as like sperm count and sperm motility, as well as just kind of, I gotta think of maca as like it's sort of it's sort of boosting, not even normalizing necessarily, but it's like feeding. We do consider it a nourishing herb. So it's like it's
Hmm.
a tropho restorative or like a nourishing herb for the endocrine system. And it does work for basically all body types. So you have to use quite a lot of it, I would say. Maca
Really?
is yeah, I mean it's a tuber, so it really is a food. And when you get to herbs that are like food herbs, you tend to need a lot of them because it's, on the spectrum of herbs, you have food is like the safest. You have the real medicinal guys in the middle, and then you have the poisons at the far end of the spectrum, and
Hmm.
things like that could be, more like the psychedelic plants and things that can technically kill you or that are toxic, but in small doses, we like them, like saffron and pepper.
Right.
Um, but I think maca is a great one. I mean, ashwagandha is great too.
The
Um,
stress.
yeah. And that's the thing, it's like the thing about fertility is that, again, it's so holistic. So it's like,
Hmm.
I don't, I wouldn't even say that there's not like an herb to boost fertility. It's just that there are herbs to work on like cervical mucus or
Hmm.
stress or, specific hormone levels or, all the different things that affect fertility. So
No,
yeah.
it's true. And when you're talking about needing a lot of it, like where do
Mhm.
they find, I'm interested to like look at dosage for that just because I mean, I know off the top of my head you get maca and they're like take a teaspoon a day and it's like, okay, like
Mhm.
is that what I'm supposed to do?
It depends on the strength, but usually in powder form, you end up at like multiple tablespoons of maca a day to
Oh,
get the dose. It's I think I have, like, in my notes that I'm just glancing at right now, I have 450 milligrams 3 times a day. So it depends, but like, for example, ashwagandha, this one I have memorized because I use it so often, but like ashwagandha as a powder, you're generally at a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons a day, which is a ton of powder, in order to get 2 to 3 grams of it a day.
Huh.
But maca, yeah. The other one that's really such a classic, like, reproductive tonic is shatavari. That's a
I've
cool
never heard
herb.
of that one.
Yeah. So its name is lightly translated to 100 husbands. Um, and yeah, it's considered a reproductive tonic in Ayurvedic medicine. It can be helpful for healthy cervical fluid. And it's a galactagogue. So it's helping to increase the quantity and the quality of breast milk. There are a lot of different benefits, but I would say, anything that's considered a tonic, is sort of tonic is, I don't want to say adaptogenic, but it's similar because it's sort of saying, okay, for the whole system, we're improving the function of the whole system. We're like toning it. It's like
Mhm.
when you tone your muscles, you're like, you're
Yeah,
going to strengthen them. So it's
that makes
considered,
sense.
yeah.
That's wild about that dosage because I'm wondering, I wonder if why people like when they have maca, they're like, oh, it doesn't work. Like you're not even taking like a quarter of the dose you're supposed to be taking.
It's a perfect point, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, so they probably
Absolutely.
need capsules or something you can. I mean, I'm not going to be drinking a maca latte with 4 teaspoons of maca in it. That's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Or like a tablespoon of ashwagandha. Like I have a low dose ashwagandha right now that I'm trying to use up. And this morning I had a whole tablespoon of it. It's like, you don't do that for pleasure, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not tasty. Um, okay, so this has been very interesting. So I want to talk about herbs for pregnancy and postpartum. So I guess since we
Hmm.
are fertility, let's go to pregnancy because nobody will touch on what can you use during pregnancy because obviously go talk to your doctor. But like in general, like what can you do to support? Because I know like sometimes you'll have like swelling in your ankles or you have digestive issues or you're having trouble sleeping or you're having cramps and it's like everything you would normally pull to, it's like, well, can't really have that while you're pregnant. So what are some things that you would recommend or
Mm-hmm.
advise?
Yeah. So the reason that there's not like a great, answer for everybody. I get this question all the time too.
Right.
What can I have? Is not because all of the herbs in the world are dangerous during pregnancy, but it's because we don't have research to
Right.
confirm the safety or not. Because nobody wants to do research on pregnant people
Yep.
with good
Yep.
reason. So it's not a terrible reason, right? And it doesn't mean that everything's unsafe. The other perspective that I appreciate from herbalists is that it's generally recommended, not 100% of the time, and this is a personal decision too, but it's a general recommendation that when you're pregnant to stick to just teas and not to concentrated forms of the herbs in capsules or tinctures or concentrated powders, because your baby or babies are going to be getting those concentrated doses too. And so if you're using a tea format, it is functional but light. And
Okay.
so I like that perspective, and I use that in my practice. Sometimes, depending on how long I've been working with a client, how well I know them, if we want to do something a little bit stronger and we know it's safer for pregnancy, you can do that. But generally, food, herbs, and tea formats are ideal during pregnancy and often in nursing as well.
Yeah.
Um, but, for example, ginger is fantastic for nausea, right?
Mhm.
And that's so common. So that's just something you've got in your kitchen. You can have that in food and teas and all of these things.
Yeah.
Um, There are some lists online. I don't remember the name of the organization, but there's a pregnancy organization that has one of the most comprehensive lists I've ever seen of herbs that are safe when you're pregnant or nursing. And unfortunately, most of it is, we don't have enough research to say, but at least you know the reason, because I think if you're just like, well, is it because it's definitely dangerous or because we just don't know? And then the other place that some people will look, and this takes a little bit of research or knowing an herbalist or something like that, but there's also traditional use. So before we were doing these studies, for thousands of years, human beings were using these herbs in certain ways. And if there's a traditional use that includes people using this herb while they're pregnant, we've kind of done the research then, and we know, and so you can trust that if you want. And I think most people are very comfortable trusting that because most of herbalism was used that way around the world before we started doing, double-blind placebo-controlled studies on these things. So there's that as well.
The struggle of finding skincare that's non-toxic and actually works. We talk so often on here about how important it is to reduce your toxic intake, because that's going to help your liver, which in turn is also going to help your hormones. You want to be staying away from artificial fragrances, endocrine disruptors, because your hormones are little chemical messengers and they need to be able to talk to each other. And so if you are putting on makeup and skincare and perfume and hair care and body care and all of these things that are endocrine disruptors, you guys, you can keep taking all the supplements and eating all the food, but you're still going to be fighting your body on this end. So really using non-toxic skincare and hair care and makeup is so important. So I'm so excited to share with you a skincare brand that I am so excited to partner with. They're called Open Lab Skin, and I came across them as a reference from a friend of mine, and they're formulated by an esthetician, and their ingredients are incredible. I bought this with my own money and tried it out, used it, and I was like, this stuff is incredible. It's just 2 products. How can I not make my life easier, right? And then I reached out to the company. They're a brand new, literally just launched. I purchased their products as soon as they had launched. And was like, can I have a discount code to give all my friends? Because your guys' products are truly amazing. They have no silicones, no fragrances, they don't even use essential oils, literally no fragrance, no parabens, no petroleum, no endocrine disruptors, no GMO ingredients, literally, you guys. But on top of that, it actually works. So I have the mask balm and the serum. They come as a package, or you can get them separately, but I got them as a package. And I use the balm as a cleanser, but I also use it as a mask overnight. And then I use the serum, and you just use the tiniest bit. When I use the serum, I use max 4 drops. I typically just use 3. And I'm telling you, you can ask people in my life, my skin has never looked so glowy. It has bakuchiol, which is a much gentler version of retinol that's plant-based, and you can actually use it while you're pregnant. So that was another thing that sold me, is I can use these while I'm pregnant, and I highly recommend. So you can use the code LEAH, LEAH 15 to save 15% off of your order, you guys. So if you bundle them, you get a discount, and then you add the discount, and you add my discount code, and you get an even bigger discount. So literally saving all of the money this way. And please send me a picture of your beautiful skin after you try this, because you're going to love it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So moving into postpartum then. So, you're very depleted postpartum, you're losing a lot of blood, you lost a lot of minerals through pregnancy. Are there any herbs that would be helpful for just healing, all of that fun stuff?
Yeah. So then you can go to, So are we nursing still, or are we past that stage?
Nursing. So I'm talking like the first couple weeks of.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that case, then you still, I mean, primarily you still want to stick to food herbs and tea herbs. I would be focused on nutrition and gut health
Mhm.
for absorption, that sort of thing. When you, I mean, and let's just talk about like what I mean by nourishing herbs then.
Mhm.
So some examples of those, and these are generally, the nice thing is that these are generally best in tea form.
Okay.
So you make what's called an infusion, which is you put a bunch of tea and, loose tea in a big jar, fill it up with hot water, and let it steep let it steep overnight. And then you drink it the next day and you have this really dark, usually liquid that's super nourishing. You pulled out all the minerals and all the vitamins. And examples of teas that are great in, or herbs that are great in a nourishing infusion tea format would be nettle leaf,
Mhm.
raspberry leaf, red clover. Fenugreek is great while nursing. It's a galactagogue. Um, what else do we put in there? Alfalfa, oat. If I didn't say oat already, you get some, basically high mineral, high vitamin herbs that are super bioavailable because you're literally just drinking them in liquid form. So they're very easy to absorb. They're full spectrum because all plants are full spectrum. We make them
Mhm.
isolates, and you're hydrating at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are some of my favorites that come to mind. And then obviously the food and the gut health to make sure you're
Mhm.
absorbing it well. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a very tasty tea to me,
Oh,
but
that's a
um
good point. All those herbs are super neutral. Actually, I mean, nettle can be a little like a little funky. There's no bitterness in there. To me, that tea tastes super neutral. I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. Definitely nothing strong. And you could you could add lemon, which would allow you to
mhm,
absorb that iron better. You
good
could sweeten it
idea.
with a little honey if you wanted to. But actually, yeah, none of those herbs have a strong flavor. No, fenugreek has a strong flavor. You do that one separately if you want, or use it
Mhm.
as like a spice in your cooking or something. But
Yeah. That makes
otherwise,
sense.
otherwise they're nice and neutral. Yeah.
Um, and I know you have an herbal gummy. Can you
Mhm.
share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, so we have three SKUs right now. We do herbal gummies for stress, anxiety relief, energy endurance, and digestion, gut healing. And they're called Herbals, HRBLS. And the reason that we created these was because I'm really interested in finding the format that is, as I said, right, easiest for people to take on a regular basis. And everybody knows what to do with a gummy. Tinctures are still kind of confusing, and herbs take time. And like a gummy, you just get it right away. So we created these a few years ago. We still have teas, and we sell a lot of other products as well. But the herbals are our little babies, and they are delicious. I've been nibbling on one right now as we've been talking. And yeah, you can find them on our website, but you can also find them at retailers across the country, and we have some abroad as well. So
Oh, that's really cool. How does that work with like the strength of like the herb turning into a gummy with
yeah,
how does that work?
yeah, it was definitely a challenge when we were formulating and creating them to make sure that they were functional doses.
Mhm.
And it was a requirement, right? I was like, first of all, the
Yeah.
ingredients on these have to be super, super good. And then second of all, they have to have functional doses of the herbs in there. So they do. And you can have one or two and feel the effects, or you can have or you can have them consistently, and over time the effects will accumulate, which is really nice. So that's why they all have sort of two functions. Like
Mhm.
you can take it right away for digestion, or the more often you take it, or the longer you take it, you're supporting gut healing as well.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
That's very cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. That's really all my herb questions besides, sitting here forever and having you tell me about herbs I've never heard about.
Rachelle, give us another. Oh,
What
I
about
appreciate
kava? Like,
it.
I have to go look at kava. I'm like,
Do
how have I
it.
never heard of this?
Oh, it's so fun. There are kava bars. It makes your mouth a little numb when you first have it. I'll probably have some after this. Maybe I'll wait like an hour and then I'll have some. It'll be my happy hour today. It's a cool herb. Yeah.
Dang, that's so
Yeah.
fun. So I will put your contact info in the show notes so everybody can contact you and obviously get their gummies if they want. Because yeah, that's an easy way to get herbs in.
It is. We also, for your community, we also have a hormone balance class. So that could be interesting. That's very, very holistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that would be very helpful. I will link that all below for them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Balancing Hormones Naturally. If you found this helpful, I would love for you to share it with a friend and post it on your stories and tag Balancing Hormones Naturally podcast so we can get this message out. You can find me on Instagram at Leah_BRUEG, and I would absolutely love to hear from you.